Hey, quick question. Have you ever heard of a guy called Demeech? Yeah, neither did I until someone in my chat recommended I check out one of his videos on how he was not a fan of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, to put it mildly. He even doubled up on the title, would you believe this? So of course, as somebody who very much enjoyed that game and is decently happy with where Game Freak and Pokemon is right now, it's very interested to see if Demeech could give me some alternating opinions. And while I certainly got those, I got way more than I possibly could have asked for, so strap in, gamers. Because as we all know,
the Pokemon Scarlet and Violet situation
is crazy.
Pokemon isn't directly developed by Nintendo.
It's Game Freak.
Can you play Pokemon on Xbox? That's what I thought.
A very strange joke. 1 out of 10, didn't laugh. I'm not going to do that for every joke, that just feels a bit too mean.
Specifics aren't the issue. If you want to argue about definitions, the Bluebird Circus is that way.
Oh, he's mentioning... oh, no. Is this another... okay. Is this another case of, like, terminally online Andy? I can't stand these people. Just go touch grass, man. I hope that's the one joke about Twitter bad that he makes for the rest of this video. I really fucking hope so.
They have the resources to literally make a cinematic masterpiece of a game. And what we're left with is this.
It's the drinking animation, the classic... everyone laugh. It's the classic joke where they don't know how to make animations.
I've been a Pokemon fan for over a decade.
Okay, so if you've been a Pokemon fan for over a decade, you should know what Game Freak and the Pokemon Company situation is. While I will never excuse the Pokemon Company, Game Freak, Creatures Inc. and Nintendo for what is the highest grossing franchise on planet Earth being the fidelity that it is something that I've come to terms of understanding, and it's something that I think the sooner everyone else does, the better. Pokemon is never going to be the game that it could be, which is unfortunate. It is really, really sad. But I think what you do need to do is take the games for what they are. And considering the direction that Game Freak has taken ever since Gen 6, where I think that was their first major blunder, if you ask me, I think they've definitely been on a trend of doing better and better. And I think if you see it from that perspective, I think Scarlet and Violet are very good games. I could definitely understand why you don't think they're good games. But if you've been playing for as long as you have, I think you should know this. I think especially if you're making Pokemon videos on the internet, I think you should know this. I can, again, as I said, I'll say it from the heavens. If that is an excuse you're not willing to buy, I'm absolutely okay with that. There's an excuse I'm willing to buy, and I'm able to see the games from where they are. But continue.
Pokemon Soul Silver on the DS remains one of my favorite games to this day.
Classic Millennial Andy thinks Hoggle and Soul Silver the peak of the franchise, which I used to before I realized the level scaling in these games are fucking shit. But anyway, 3 for 3 Pokemon YouTubers shitting on Twitter and online. It's crazy, isn't it? We'll see it. Fucking Rogue Renegade, Lily Orchard, and now Demeech. Are Pokemon YouTubers just fucking, like, condemned to, like, complaining about Twitter? Like, is this what it is now? Am I like the one fan who loves this franchise and been playing it from day one? Literally day one. I was there the day it fucking released. Who is a chronic grass touch? I'm about to fucking start my second job. I have a weekend job and a weekday job. Jesus fucking Christ, lad.
There's no denying Pokemon has gone downhill. But the question is, when exactly did the series decline?
I would have said with, oh, he's going to do it for me. Okay.
Some would say almost a decade ago with Pokemon X and Y.
That is what I would say.
When the series made the jump to 3D. But I didn't see it that way. Pokemon X and Y introduced a ton of new features, with many being major additions. The Fairy type was introduced, and the Mega Evolutions were incredible.
Thanks for the history lesson.
The only issues I had with X and Y were the lack of a post-game and the lore of Kalos not really having much depth.
Are you not going to talk about how dog shit easy these games were? For all the complaining you're going to do, Demeech, you're not going to complain about the one thing that I would say is probably the worst thing about X and Y, that they're just dog shit easy, unfortunately, even by baby game Pokemon standards. Interesting.
So that likely means that Gen 7 is when Pokemon declined, right? Hate to break it to you, but I found Pokemon Sun and Moon to be far better than X and Y.
No one disagrees with you. Who is disagreeing with this take? Even by again, I'm trying to cast my mind back to like late 2022, right? Even back in this day, like if you told me Gen 7 are better than 6, I'd be like, yeah, who's disagreeing with you, bro?
Sure, there were a lot of cutscenes, and the games were a bit easy, but you could turn off experience shows.
Games are a bit easy. I love it. Strange that you mentioned easy for Gen 7, but not 6. Very strange. I would say 7 was way better than 6 in a difficulty department. I would say, relatively speaking, I would say Gen 7, base game Gen 7, no mods, no hacks. If you're playing a standard playthrough, I think Gen 7 are probably the hardest games of all of them, even more than Platinum, because people say, but Cynthia. But I think one of the main reasons Cynthia was so hard is because the level jump from the 8th gym to the Elite Four was quite big, and as a result, a lot of people didn't bother grinding up their Pokemon to match the levels of the Elite Four, which why would you? The level jump was like 8 levels. It was actually quite fucking annoying. But Gen 7 does not involve you grinding a lot, and yet it's still as tough as anything. Does that make sense? So I would say USUM is tougher than Platinum. I would say that 100%. I would say these are the toughest games. So weird of you to say easy. Almost as if you probably should have actually wrote this retrospective properly.
Has to mean Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee were the decline. As crazy as it is to say this, I actually like Pokemon Let's Go. It might not be a traditional Pokemon experience, but it's a good remake of Pokemon Yellow with many quality.
I would say there's a cold take, but I think there's probably a lot of people who also hate Let's Go. Even by 2022 standards, I would say maybe the tides hadn't shifted yet. I think Let's Go is a fine game. It isn't what I personally wanted. It isn't what a lot of people wanted, to be fair. I'd say it's fun, though. It was fun. I don't get people who complain about the XP share just made for worse grinding. I think the number one complaint about the XP share was when the game didn't account for it. Gen 6 was very clearly not accounted for. The problem I bumped into, and a problem that a lot of people bumped into, is that you got the XP share, you left it on because it's on by default, and by the time you notice, oh, I'm like really over leveled, like it's too late and the game doesn't really like, you can't really adjust your unless you literally want to box your whole team and then make a new one. Do you know what I mean? Like adjusting back to the normal level is so tough. Whereas Gen 7, you had the XP share on and they scaled it according to the XP share, which is what made the game so much more fun. As you said, it just stops grinding, which is easily the worst part of the older Pokemon games. Like, try and play any Gen 4 and older Pokemon game. There's usually a part where the game is like, hello, now you have to grind. I play Sapphire and remember a bad time grinding when Gen 8 had a more bad time. Yeah, exactly. I think the old games were just bad. I think, yeah, it's one of those old boomerisms. It's one of those old boomerisms, chat. When you see like an old boomer gamer complain about, oh, Pokemon games are so hard. No, it's just grinding. And none of us want to do grinding.
Why, yes, it would be, because Pokemon Sword and Shield are absolute trubbish. Let's ignore the Koufant in the room with the national decks, because even though it was bad not to include it, the issues with Pokemon Sword and Shield go way beyond that. Having forced experience share makes the game so easy to the point.
Oh, no! Oh, the boomer wants to grind! Alright, we'll go back to normal speed. Oh, no way. There was one instance where I was maybe a little bit over leveled. I think it was when I went to fight Alistair. I boxed like a couple of my Pokemon for a bit and then like let my levels equal out and then I brought them back and it was fine. So there was one instance throughout the entire game where maybe I was like 2 levels over. The rest of the game though, the curving was fine. So yeah, just the boomer Andy, guys. See, you guys are so used to seeing me complain, like shout Zuma. This is the part where I commit friendly fire. My fellow millennial is catching strays right now.
Makes the game so easy to the point where it's not even fun to play.
I actually don't. I don't want to make the appeal to it's a baby game fallacy. Have you played God of War? I just want to know. That's what I want to know. Have you played God of War? Have you played The Last of Us by any chance? Spec Ops: The Line? Hades? Like, where are we talking? Where are we at here? Where are we at here? Do you know? It's like when I watch someone analyzing children's media, I'm like, have you watched Breaking Bad? Like, have you got like a wide palette of media for all different ages before you review children's media? Because otherwise your perception might be a bit skewed. I don't know.
I was able to take out pretty much all the gym leaders with primarily just a Clefairy. And that's not even getting...
Oh yeah, of course you... Yeah, guess what, motherfucker? I could probably do that in Gen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and 7! What kind of criticism is that? Oh my god. Crazy. Crazy. It's almost as if this is a fucking huge genre, and almost any Tom, Dick, and Harry can fucking do it, lads. It's almost as if this game is made for babies. Shocking. Shocking behavior.
A friend of mine wanted a Ponyta, and it took nearly an hour for us to be able to trade, because the link trade system is absolute garbage. But the worst thing about Sword...
Isn't it just entering a code? Isn't it just entering a... Am I fucking dumb? Am I going crazy right now? It took him an hour to enter. What do you mean by this? I'm so confused, Demeech. Help me help you. I'm not even trying to make fun of you here. Like, what's happening right now? The power of editing is phenomenal, brother. Show us what you mean. I have no idea what you're talking about. You just said that and expected us to understand.
I didn't have high hopes for Gen 9. Considering the visual presentation resembled a GameCube game at best, I assumed...
Appeal to graphics fallacy. Can we just leave it at that? Can we just say that, guys? Appeal to graphics fallacy.
Are Pokemon Scarlet and Violet truly as buggy as Johto National Park and as batty bad as everyone is saying they are? Or has
well, okay, leave the Pokemon puns alone, brother. 1 out of 10, didn't laugh. This is the part where I asked the chat. From my personal experience of playing I'm not just glazing the game, by the way. I think in the DLC, the frame rates were fucking shit. I hated it. The frame drops were really fucking annoying in the second DLC. But throughout most of the original game and the first DLC, I barely noticed it. Maybe I just got lucky. I know Levencia was very bad at launch, because that city was just really fucking huge. Frame drops in any water. Yeah, water areas were a little bad too. And Levencia was bad, like really bad. But after they patched it a couple of times, it was pretty solid-ish. Again, the frame rates were still, but it wasn't like so bad it was unplayable. I would say DLC 2, it started getting really bad to the point where I'm just like, I started getting annoyed, you know? Thicket, yeah, like Tag Tree, Thicket, Levencia, and Castle Royale Lake got pretty bad. Other than that, I think the game was solid. So what does he think? Like, is he gonna? So here's the question, Demeech. I'm fully willing to like concede this point to you. Are you gonna show us some clips? Are you gonna show us like different areas? Like, if you're lagging in like Artazon or something, or like fucking Medali, then by all means, okay, fair, shit on the game, all right.
And then venturing off on an ultimate quest to catch Pokemon and become the very best, like no one ever was.
Excuse me, no, and this is where Musty puts on his glasses, nerd emoji. Actually, you go on to find your treasure. The director Clavel leaves it very vague.
I gotta be honest, I don't usually play Pokemon for the story. What even was the story in Sword and Shield? Oh, some kid's looking for wishing stars, wishing tree, where I come to think and dream, Pokemon grow big. I didn't care. But Scarlet and Violet...
To be fair, I didn't care neither. But what do you think of Scarlet and Violet?
Violet actually managed to have some shockingly good and deep storytelling.
Ooh,
that
okay,
honestly,
Demeech.
at times is emotionally impactful. And the story itself is
he
quite
likes
memorable.
it?
This game may as well have what is perhaps the best and most in-depth story. Characters are also an aspect where Scarlet and Violet shine bright like a shining pearl. I gotta be honest, I found Hal's crippling Malasada obsession to be hilarious, and I prefer the more edgy, rude rivals from the older games. But Nemona is a great...
Okay, another boomer moment. I prefer the old... I know he's obviously, you know... He mentioned it in passing, but that's another way you can tell if you're watching a boomer Pokemon YouTuber. I love the edgy rifles, guys. I do as well. That's why it's me. I'm talking about myself. Oh my god, Demeech
has to be Arven.
Demeech
they really nailed it here, and I was very surprised.
Demeech, oh my god, this is supposed to be how Scarlet and Violet. Have I been clickbaited here, Demeech? The way
highlight of the game for me.
What's happening here?
Game, a good story is nice to have, but the gameplay is going to be the most important factor.
And if I was to talk about the gameplay of Scarlet and Violet briefly, I would say I really like the fact that after after 3 paths are open, the game kind of opens up. I do think it's very shitty how there's an intentional order in an open world game. I think that's utterly atrocious and unforgivable. But once you quickly find out there is an order, I think the game is organized in such a way where like you're darting around all the different areas of the map, so like you kind of end up exploring all of it eventually, which I do think is well designed. And I think if this was the way Pokemon was going to be going forward, I think I'd be mostly happy with that. And that's what I think those are my thoughts.
These abilities make navigation.
Do you think I could play a game of Mario Kart Tour before he actually makes a point?
Considering this is an open world game, exploration would be far more fun with all the abilities available from the start.
I mean, to be fair, this came out shortly after Scarlet and Violet, so I guess him explaining the game kind of makes sense, but 6 weeks after it came out, I think most people would have played this by now, but fair enough, you go do your thing.
But unfortunately, that's the least of our worries, because Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have some of the sloppiest and unpolished game design.
Oh, here we go, okay, we're back to opinion land. All right, here we go.
Have some of the sloppiest and unpolished game design I have ever seen in my life. And I have played Pac-Man on the Atari 2600.
Okay, I'm probably doing it for dramatic effects. Insane comparison, but we bull.
Address the Doniphan in the room. The performance. You've probably seen videos showcasing numerous...
Can you do that again for me, Demeech?
Let's address the Doniphan in the room.
The Doniphan in the room. Okay. Doniphan, my favorite Pokemon. Oh, Los Angeles Laps 3?
You'll want to use the legendary for faster movement, but oftentimes, the game will start lagging and essentially be in slow motion. The game performs the absolute worst when you pan the camera out to get a greater view or are in towns.
Yeah, it's bad.
The students saying, "Good morning, Mr. Jacques," can reach frame rates in the single digits. There's also a gym challenge where you'll need to find 10 Sunfloras, and the more you find, the worse the frame rate becomes.
I did think the Sunflora one was notably bad. I will give him points for that. I think when people mention the classroom thing, I'm like, brother, you're there for like 2 seconds. Who fucking cares, all right? You're just bitching for the sake of bitching. But you know the artisan gym trial. Yeah, I give that to him. I'm playing as Boomerang, bro.
Runs atrocious.
If you guys are curious,
you may wonder if I was able to forgive the performance issues during my playthrough.
I
While
was.
I was able to beat the game, it was getting increasingly frustrating dealing with the issues. I don't think I ever got to the point of rage quitting, but I did have to ask myself a few times, why am I playing this? There had to
really that bad, bro. That's crazy. But I'm not gonna fight you too much on this. I had to also. Oh fuck! Who hit me? Some bastard hit me. Oh come on, surely. Who the hell is this guy? Get out of here!
Something I found engaging.
First place.
But surprisingly,
first, you fucking bastard! I got red shield right at the end. Musty talk.
In prior games, you'd ideally want to.
Brother, I'm here for why it ruined it, but he's just yapping about the fucking game. Second, you fucking bitch. Who was that? Who was that? The Boomerang bit at the end. He's just yapping about the game. Come on. What do you think of Nimona? What do you think of Gita? What do you think of the game?
But the minigames are nothing more than boring filler, and I'd go as far to say that they're downright insulting. They are so easy to the point where it's nearly impossible to lose them. I get that these games are made for kids, but that doesn't excuse it.
Well, firstly, it does. Secondly, they're not supposed to be hard. They're just supposed to be the bit before the bit. And also, what I would say, generally, I think the gym trials, while they're nothing to write home about, I would say they do a good job of making the world seem a lot more charming. I think the first gym takes place in a city that's famed for its olive harvest, so you have to kick a giant olive around. This guy, the Vaulted Loser gym leader, I forgot his name, I just know his catchphrase. He loses his wallet, and you go chase him down to the nearby city that does like auctions. It's like, hey, you doing some auctions? I got $10 on this, $10, 20. So then your trial is like, Kofi, thank you, that's his name. He's like, hey, win a bid and we'll see what happens. And it's like, it's one of those incidental things that just kind of happen naturally, where it's like, oh, that's kind of charming. Like, are they supposed to be hard? No. You know what this is? This is like complaining that Mario bosses are easy. That's what he's doing right now. He's complaining that Mario bosses are easy. And it's like, are you technically right? Sure. But I'm not playing Mario for the bosses, bro. You know, like, the gym trials are supposed to be like a nice little fun mini game. They're just like, oh, like, it kind of adds a bit more charm to the game. I'd say the only one that was well and truly boring was maybe sliding down the mountain, Grush's one, because like, I felt like if it was going to be I feel like it should have been maybe a little bit more tough. It just felt a little too easy. But the other ones like added at least a little bit of charm, where I'm like, you know what? That's nice. But like, what do you expect? Another ice type puzzle? Those ice type puzzles are fucking dumb. I hated them. Like, yeah, were they tough? Sure, but I fucking hated them. I didn't like the Psychic one. It was a weird ass rhythm game. See, for me, that one was so weird, it wrapped back around to being like funny, you know? I humbly disagree with you, Demeech. What I would ask Demeech is, what are you expecting? What were you expecting to be? That's what I would ask you.
Pokemon has never been ridiculously difficult, but there was an element of challenge. Couldn't be a gym.
No, maybe, and I don't know if he's going to acknowledge this. Maybe it's because when you played Pokemon back in this era, you were a kid, and video games as a whole were a lot harder for you. So as a result, you're always framing it. And remember, this is the one thing that I think a lot of older Pokemon fans, like around my age, forget to do, is that whenever you go into a Pokemon game, you have the context of every other single Pokemon game that you've already played. That's context that Game Freak famously doesn't account for. There's a reason why you always do the catching tutorial in every Pokemon game, because they always assume, you could either say rightfully or wrongfully, but they assume this is the first time that you're playing. And as of course, as they always done, they're marketing to kids. They're also going to favor that into some extent as well. So whenever you play a modern Pokemon game, is it easy because it well and truly is easy, or is it easy because there is a lot of context that would make the game hard that you already have? You already know that when you fight Kofu, bring an electric type. That's something that you would have had to figure out when you were a kid, but now you just know. You see what I mean? So I think that's something that like a lot of older Pokemon fans have a hard time like taking into account in the content. This is something that Game Freak have the capability of like going against in, for my example would be the second DLC of Scarlet and Violet, where the gyms and the challenges were actually really fucking tough. I think for the most part, that's not the game they want to make. And I think that's fair to give Game Freak, to let Game Freak have that. I think if you want to give Game Freak criticism for like the game not being as high fidelity as it could be. I think that's fair. I think if you're giving Game Freak shit for making a game marketed to children that's always been marketed to children, and you're saying it's easy, I think that's extremely unfair. And I think instead you should play God of War. Easy. So.
And the mini games here aren't particularly fun either. One is essentially DDR, but it's near impossible to lose. And of course, it's at a snail's
What did you say?
pace. Then there are the Operation Starfall missions where you'll need to take out 30 Pokemon using the new Let's Go mechanic. What you can do is send out a Pokemon to battle in real time without engaging directly in a battle. Surprisingly, I found this to be a good addition considering the open nature of the game, but this is only the case because the act of catching Pokemon is identical to how it's always been, but the Let's Go mechanic is unfortunately the only alternative. I was initially worried it could make the game too easy, but it really doesn't, because the overall game is just way too easy.
It's a baby game, Demeech. You're playing a game marked... Oh, I missed the ramp.
Going back to the Operation Starfall challenges, you'll have a whopping 10 minutes to defeat 30 Pokemon using the Let's Go mechanic. None of them took me more than 2 minutes at the absolute most, so they're similar.
Admittedly, I do agree. I think the Team Starfall challenges were actually not as fun as they could be. I understand them using the Let's Go mechanic to implement it into the gameplay in some way, but I do think it could have been much better. I will agree with you here.
Because Scarlet and Violet unfortunately retain the dreaded forced experience share.
I swear to God. You know what's more annoying? I actually don't know who's more annoying. Listening to Zoomer Mario Kart fans or listening to Boomer and Pokemon fans? What's like the bigger torture for me? I honestly don't know. I would say Boomer and Pokemon fans are worse, which is why I'm having to resort to playing Mario Kart Tour to stop my fucking synapses from fucking breaking. I'm in first place, by the way. Oh, they're balling. Balling games are balling. That's a green screened out Birdo. I'm balling.
But I will never understand forcing players to play a specific way. And it wasn't always like this. Pokemon X and Y introduced a team experience share, and I found it to make the experience way too easy, so I turned it off for the succeeding 3DS games. But not even having the option is a major problem. Not only does the experience share make Pokemon way too easy, but it completely goes against the entire idea of Pokemon.
No, it does not. The implication you're making is that one of the core tenets of Pokemon was grinding. And at no point in the series consistently was grinding ever a factor. If it was, I would 100% agree with you. But the fact that most Pokemon games have that one unforgivable spike of grinding, and they don't have any sort of consistently recurring thoughts of grinding, I would say that your point here is horribly flawed. I would say that. And the only reason you liked grinding is because you were a kid and had a lot of time to spend on the video game, and as a result, it was more satisfying for you to spend the time that you had, infinite time because you're a kid, on grinding your Pokemon and leveling them up so you could beat the next challenge up ahead. This is something that modern Pokemon fans don't have to do anymore, and rightfully so. Grinding sucks. Now, could you make an argument as to why grinding in video games is good? Yes, of course you can, and I would love to hear that. I don't think you're smart enough to make that, though, Demeech, I'm going to be honest with you. And these guys are getting fucking destroyed, but I'm like half a lap ahead.
When you're training, I'm sure there's going to be a little bit of grinding, but by doing that, it's rewarding, and you also get a connection with your Pokemon, but when the experience is just shared across the party, it just completely misses the point.
If this from the perspective of someone who's complaining about Pokemon is for babies, why is he complaining that literally every Pokemon fan should know like Jim? Shouldn't this be for Boom? Yeah, like, I don't know, man. He's, I think what we're experiencing right now, Castform, is cognitive dissonance. This guy cannot contend with the fact that a game series that he loves is made for people 1/3 his age, and as a result, he's instead of doing what I did, which is playing media that's made more for my skill set, he's instead complaining that the game that he likes should be more tuned to his skill set, which I think is a fundamentally flawed way of approaching Pokemon, especially.
Part of what makes Pokemon so much fun to play is catching and seeing all the Pokemon.
I would agree.
Especially the new ones.
Yeah.
And the good news is that Scarlet and Violet have some excellent new Pokemon. The starters are some of the best in the series. Even if
I agree.
The lines are a bit questionable outside of Fuecoco. Gimme.
You're wrong. Wait, hang on. Hang on. Excuse me. Hang on. The evolution lines are questionable outside of Fuecoco. So what? Meowscarada and Quaquaval are the worst. Okay, you know what? That's how we know Demeech is bad. That's how we... You know what? I think I just proved it right there. What you're telling me is that the only good line, the only good final Evo is Skeledirge. Now, granted, I like Skeledirge, but he's easily the weakest of the three. Meowscarada and Quaquaval, are you joking me? Yeah, you know what? This guy's cooked. You know, I was right to never trust him. I mean, he's a crocodile, so he's going to like Skeledirge. Yeah, but that's like saying I'm black, so I'm going to like all the black characters, Spongy. You're being a bit racist there. You need to stop.
And oh my gosh, Petey is in the game. Gen 9 is a complete mixed bag. There are some Pokemon that look really good, but a lot of them either look super generic or like nothing at all.
Oh, for fuck's sake. It's the classic, no, there's some designs that suck. You can repeat, say it with me, guys. Say it with me, guys. Every Pokemon gen has those Pokemon that in your subjective opinion you're gonna think sucks. Thank you, class.
For a game like this, I think it would have been nice to have at least 600 Pokemon, because I often see many of the same Pokemon repeated throughout the game.
I think 400 is actually a very good amount. I'm gonna be honest, I think while Dexit was annoying, and in principle I'm still against it, I do understand why they did it, and I think 400 is a good number.
That is until you realize that the game will often tell you what moves are super effective and not very effective. Again, making the game too easy. But
I don't think you mentioned this, which is, so your angle of critique, Demeech, is fundamentally flawed. What the game will do is if you've interacted with a type before, they will tell you. Now, could you make the argument that that makes the game too easy? Maybe, but I like the fact that when you've interacted with the type / interacted with the Pokemon, that's when the game will tell you. Like if you're bumping into a Pokemon for the first time, the game will not tell you if a move is super effective. And rightfully so, it would ruin it. But when you have bumped into that Pokemon before, the game will tell you. Now, could you maybe argue that that still is too easy? Yeah, but you didn't make that argument. You made the argument that the game will just straight up tell you. And what context did you do it in? Hang on, let's see. Yeah, like you've probably fought a Wigglytuff before, so the game is just telling you. So what this is like most Pokemon, like I know the type chart. I don't need to look up the type. Like I know all of this basically. Like in this instance, all of these moves will just be regularly effective. But for a new Pokemon fan, again, remember, in the context of what SV is trying to be, what Pokemon is trying to be, which is a game that generally anyone can pick up and give a try, this is a very, very good quality of life feature. It's something that's not going to bother me because I know my type matchups, but for someone else, it will help them learn their type matchups better. You're just hating a quality of life feature. You're just hating a feature for accessibility, which is just sad. Why do you hate accessibility, Demeech? Why?
This is Gen 9's defining gimmick. The Pokemon become crystal and can even get different typing, which means you can have a Pokemon
I thought Tara was just okay. If I'm being honest, I think.
Why they didn't continue with Mega Evolutions, I'll never understand, because none of the succeeding gimmicks even come close to being as cool. And it's
Demeech, you just disappoint me, brother. The reason they didn't continue with Mega Evolution is because they would have to have designated a set amount of designs towards designing Mega Evolutions, which would take away from the base amount of Pokemon they could make. And Game Freak came to the conclusion that just simply wasn't worth it. You're thinking level 1, Demeech. You're supposed to be thinking about the level 2 conversation. The proper conversation you want to have is them dedicating like 20 or so slots to Megas as opposed to regular Pokemon, is that worth the trade-off for Mega Evolution? Now, that's an interesting question. Some people might say yeah, some people might say no. I personally would say because what's it? Scarlet and Violet has what? How many base game Pokemon does Scarlet and Violet have? 103 new Pokemon. So, would you be happy with a Pokedex of 83 new Pokemon if it meant that 20 would go into Mega Evolution designs? It's an interesting question. I would personally say that while I would love to see Mega Evolution come back, if it comes back too much as a detriment of the regular base game Pokedex, because I want to see new designs, whether it's Mega or whether it's not Mega. So if it comes too much at the cost of the standard experience of going into a grassy patch and just seeing what's going to happen, I do not want that to happen, personally. And I think since they've set the precedent now that like each generation is going to have one gimmick, I'm okay with them just like continuing this trend as is, to be honest. To be fair, the Paradox Mon inflate SV's numbers. That's true, they do actually. How many Paradox Pokemon are there? So what, I think there's like 20 Paradox Pokemon, is that fair to say? So what, like in regular gameplay, you'll probably see like 70, 80 Pokemon? So again, it's an interesting question to think about. Is that what you would rather? I think it's been so long since Megas were a thing, I'm just like, you know what? Just let it go, bro. I'm just like, just let it go. If Megas being gone meant that we got a really cool gimmick in Paradox Pokemon, because I think Paradox Pokemon, while some were hit and miss, I think it was a really cool gimmick. I really like that as like a set of Pokemon. So if you told me no Paradox Pokemon and we get Megas back, or no like Paradox-like Pokemon gimmick, I'm taking the new. I always want new shit. You guys know me. I like new shit. I like new shit of old shit almost every single time. So if you're telling me we can get a new like Paradox-ish kind of gimmick where there's like another set of Pokemon that are just like really weird and stuff, yeah, I'll have that over Mega Evolution. Mega fans are so known. They never look at Mega's flaws, like how non-inclusive it can be. It's such a small amount of Megas compared to the Rider roster. Yeah, it's just. Do you know what it is? Do you know what it is? It's either people complaining that their special Pokemon never got a Mega, or it's people that have had their special Pokemon get Mega that want more of their special Pokemon. It's just, that's what it is. It's the rich get richer. That's what it is. You're all selfish, you Mega Andes.
By far the best aspect of Scarlet and Violet is the exploration. Exploring Paldea is an absolute blast. Finding new areas as well as Pokemon is incredibly satisfying, and I have to say, I'd love for succeeding Pokemon games to continue going the open world route. Even in a game as buggy and as unpolished as this, it proves to be a good concept. You have your typical trading and battling, and right off the bat, trading is far more simple than it was in Sword and Shield. It's quick and easy to set up a link trade.
I still don't understand why it took you so long in SWSH, but I'm just going to keep moving.
GTS is a major problem, and it's unbelievable why it's been absent since Gen 8. Then
I'm gonna be honest, guys. The more I'm starting to become like, I'm doing the thing, guys. I'm doing the thing. I love the GTS as a feature, and I would love to see it come back. It is a feature on your phone, by the way. Just to clarify, some Pokemon fans like to pretend it's not. There's a Pokemon Home app which has the GTS, and would it be nice if the latest game had a way to access it that you didn't have to use a phone? Sure. But we have on the phone. And the fact that no Pokemon fan who wants GTS back is willing to acknowledge why having it on your phone is bad is insane to me. You can very quickly go on the app, set a Pokemon to trade on your GTS, have a look while you're scrolling. It's so much more convenient having it on your phone. Again, the better question to ask is, why haven't they implemented it into like have a feature in the game that you could also connect to the GTS? That would be cool. But I think having it as a phone app is just way better. And I think you're wrong for this. I think everyone else who complains about GTS is also wrong for this. And I think everyone else who complains about the GTS forgets the amount of people who put Pidgeys in there, hoping for Arceus in return. I think you're all forgetting that as well.
Also, online co-op. The first time in the series, here, you can team up with 3 other friends and explore Paldea. Honestly, I mainly just play Pokemon in single player, but I did have
imagine why.
Riley. But this is only covering the surface, because we have yet to cover the presentation.
What's wrong with the presentation, brother?
The performance issues are still the worst factor, but if the game even attempted to look visually appealing, I think some of those performance issues would be, at the very least, maybe somewhat justified. There is no reason why it shouldn't run perfectly. Saying it looks like a GameCube game is not true, because at least with GameCube games, there's a clear
it actually runs.
This just looks awful, but hands down the worst aspect is the amount of pop-in. This relates to performance issues once again. Oftentimes, you'll literally watch the environment load right in front of you. Not only does this visually look awful, but it breaks immersion. You'll often see Pokemon load in when you're close to them, essentially having them pop out of nowhere.
I will say that's actually quite annoying. I would say the environment popping in, I don't really care. Pokemon popping is annoying. Like, I'll be running, and then like all of a sudden I'll just bump a Pokemon, and like that's annoying. I'll give him that. That's probably the one aspect of performance where it's a lot less forgivable to me.
Is with some of the Pokemon and trainers. They look fine, but not amazing or anything. Some of the terrestrials...
I love how he's talking about the graphics, and he shows what's graphically a decently interesting city to look at. Cascarafa, I think that's what the city's called. Very strange B-roll to use while you're talking about graphics, but sure. I think when he's talking about graphics, I don't think the graphics of this game is bad. I think it's just I think the performance issues make the graphics look worse. I think that's what it is. I think the art direction for the game and what Paldea is going for, which is obviously Spanish inspirations, when it actually pulls it off, looks really fucking good. It's just the performance issues don't really sell it as well as it could. Artisan windmill, yeah, it's unforgivable. Again, I'm not going to defend the frame issues because it's indefensible, but the actual looks of the places, yeah. If anything, if there's one thing you should complain about, is the fact that like we can't even go inside any of the houses and like talk to any of the NPCs in there. We're not allowed to go inside random people's houses anymore. I'm like, what the fuck, man? I don't want to use like, why are you expecting high-end graphics? I don't want to use that argument because I think that argument is fundamentally flawed. But it's just... It's Pokemon, bro. Come on now. You know,
they look fine.
You know, it looks ugly, and this is 2022 Switch. I don't think it looks. I think you're just wrong for that, Raul. I don't think it looks ugly. I just think the performance issues ruin the game. I don't think it looks ugly. I would disagree with you. Does it look as good as it could be? It doesn't look as good as it could be. You're right, but I don't think it looks ugly. I think that's a big word to use.
Take a look at this.
Okay, so look. After several hours, I can say Scarlet and Violet is the Zelda Breath of the Wild series. A turning point for Pokemon. Remember when reminded me of what I made to feel Gen 1 22 years ago. It's fresh, you're free, it's fun. Handheld picks. This person does not mention graphics. Your first tweet that you brought up does not mention graphics. They're just saying what their subjective experience was with the game. Argument destroyed. I'm still getting mixed feelings, and I'm not sure about it, to be honest. If you're not obsessed with frame rates and visuals, so not expecting perfection, you'll be happy with it. That's all I can say. This is literally what I would say word for word. This is literally what I would say word for word. This is what I said to not Gringill Brad, but like Irish Brad. He bought Pokemon. Scarlet Violet was his first Pokemon game, and that's literally word for word what I told him. Yeah, the frame rate is going to get shit at times, but the game is very fun. The exploration's great. The Pokemon collecting's always been fun, and yeah, if the frame rate issues don't bother you, you're gonna have a fun game. And guess what? He said the games were good. Crazy, right? Crazy. Breath of the Wild of Pokemon, this shit's like Sonic 06 of Pokemon. Maybe for the very small minority of Pokemon obsessed with frame rates, and the huge majority of other hand loves it and has a lot of fun. Not judging based on Twitter bubbles is very important if you want accurate situation. This person is probably the most mature person I've ever seen on Twitter.com. Jesus fucking Christ. This is the argument you wanted. Oh my fucking lord. This person on the bottom right. Who are they? I want to talk to them. Who is this person? I want to talk to them. They seem far more fucking reasonable than you. This... What is happening? This is the person you wanted to highlight? They're all the same. I think, is it the same? So what is it? Oh, sorry, I just didn't read it. Is this all the same This is the one person you wanted to highlight? This... I'm sorry, I thought it was 3 separate images, my bad. This is the same... That's even worse then. What? Who is this person? I want to meet this person. Can I talk Scarlet and Violet with this person? I would have still thought your argument was shit because you're bringing up Twitter. But the best you could have done was someone who's like straight up like excusing the frame rate. Because like, I would never excuse the frame rate. No one is excusing the frame rate. The frame rates can get really fucking shit in that game. But in my subjective experience, it wasn't so bad that it ruined the game for me. In DLC 2, it started to really piss me off, but also didn't ruin my experience with that as well. I think what this issue is that Demeech has just bumped into a normal person. That's the issue that he's bumping into. This is just what this is what I would say. I would say, yeah, this is genuinely how I felt about Scarlet and Violet. Yeah, it's the first time I've had a lot of fun playing a Pokemon game in a very long time, other than PLA. If we're talking like mainline games, you've dug yourself into a hole. Are you going to climb out?
Not obsessed with visuals and frame rates, so not expecting.
And you're doing the straw man. The straw man voice. Oh my god, I love this video. Listen, absolute cinema. Absolute. If you're going to be a car crash of a video, I want to see you do flips. I want to see you do turns. I want to see you like a big fiery explosion. This is what Demeech is doing right now. Good fucking... He's doing the straw man voice.
Then you'll be happy.
Obviously, this guy knows what he's talking about, because...
What? Listen, don't get me wrong. Listen, Demeech, listen, I'm one of you. When I see anime profile picture, I want to reject their opinion. I'm the same as you, brother. 90% of people I've bumped into with an anime profile picture tend to have the worst opinions you've ever seen. This is the one exception. This anime guy is invited to the cookout, all right? Fuck my life, brother. I'm crying laughing, chat. I'm in tears. This is absolute cinema. This is absolute cinema. 3 for 3 of YouTubers using Twitter users that back their own take and saying Pokemon fans are bad. The worst part is it was one person. You couldn't even bother to show like a collage of tweets. I thought you were originally showing a collage of tweets. You brought that one person. You wanted to fry them for what? And you censored their name as well. So you fried them and you didn't even go like full hog. At least like name drop the fucker. I wouldn't recommend it, by the way. I'm not endorsing that sort of activity. But if I was gonna full send on one person, I'm naming and shaming them, bro. Like if I wanted to go full send in on Captain Gandalf, I'm naming this fucker by name. I hate the way that you walk, the way that you talk. If I take a flight, it's gonna be direct. I'm for Kendrick on you. You highlighted some guy and when anime profile picture opinion rejected when his opinion was actually based. What is happening?
One playing the game. And to make matters worse, this isn't some kid saying it.
Oh my god. Demeech anime profile picture fury. Demeech, I'm just gonna let you know, you don't say it. When you see anime profile pictures and you don't want to take it, you're supposed to think it. You're not supposed to say the quiet part out loud. It's like when Fox News, they don't like, whenever like a crime happens, they don't call them black people, because then people would call them racist. They call them thugs. You see? If Fox News is more clever enough to like quote their language, you should be too, Demeech. I'm very disappointed in you. How do you make hating anime profile pictures cringe? I don't get it. Something that should have been a slam dunk. Something that Filthy Frank talked about back in 2014, and it's still true to this day, and you're ruining it for the rest of us, brother.
And what is the main reason why everyone is praising Wave 3 and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe DLC? Graphics absolutely do matter, and considering the game looks and runs like a grimer on a treadmill...
The tweet you showed was just someone saying, in spite of it. You, again, remember guys, the tweet he showed was somebody saying, I like the game in spite of it. Wait for you, enjoy.
And another excuse I often see is the Switch isn't powerful enough. We've seen time and time again that the Switch is...
You're arguing with shadows. Demeech, look me in the eye. You and me both know if someone says that they're wrong. You know that. Why are you arguing this? We've played Breath of the Wild. We've played Mario Odyssey. We know this. Why are you arguing? The person that said this is probably half your age. You're arguing with 12-year-olds on Twitter. You're arguing with a hypothetical 12-year-old on Twitter that you made up. Because you're not even showing a tweet. So as far as I'm concerned, you made this up. You've made up someone to get angry about Demeech. Jesus Christ, lad. Crazy. I love how every time you react to Pokemon videos, like the craziest shit ever. I don't intend... I just want to make it clear. Whenever I watch a Pokemon video, maybe not in this case, like I deliberately sought out a bad video because Spongy baited me into watching this. Generally, like, you guys all know me, right? When I watch a video, I want to go into it wanting to like it. I want to go into it, like, maybe, like, offering an alternate take, maybe giving them some, like, friendly pointers. I did that with, like, Curblay. I did that with fucking Unfunny Me. Like, I was enjoying myself. That's how I like to react to videos, but this person is just... What? He said he was 99. So what? This person is, what, 20, 26? So it's like, what, 25, 26 years old? I'm not letting you have a pass on that, brother. Like, you're 26 years old. You should know better than this. In 2022 you were? So right now you're 26. I mean, I guess by the time this video came out, you're like, what, 24? Even then, I'd say still a bit on the older end, you know, still a bit on the older end. You should know a little better, a bit more forgivable. I hope that he looks back on this and goes, yeah, this is a bit cringe. I still don't like SaulXLvampire, but this is a bit cringe. I hope he does that, but... Okay.
Things like the shops mostly being limited to text menus, and there are also a lack of animations. And in true Pokemon fashion, when there are animations, you get stuff like this.
Guys, it's the sandwich animation again.
Moments like the eating animation and the windmill animation is that it's nitpicking, but once you stop defending a billion-dollar company and do some math, those awkward and low-quality animations really start to add up, and combined with the visually appalling...
Again, no one with, like, 2 brain cells is going to defend the eating animation or the artisan windmill. No one is doing that.
The music of Scarlet and Violet is good. It gets the job done, but most of it didn't stand out to me. There were some tracks towards the finale I found to be quite memorable, but other than those tracks...
I think what makes Scarlet and Violet's sound design, music design, so much nicer is that, like, every area has a unique music that they use for multi-purposes. Like, they'll have, like, one theme that's, like, used for, like, when you're just chilling and like, vibing, and then when you're in the battle theme, they'll use, like, a faster paced, more remixed version. What that leads to is a game that feels more immersive as you're playing, but a game that has, like, less memorable music since there isn't, like, individual themes that really resonate. That being said, though, I think they did that on purpose, because once you enter Area Zero, and, like, the music is completely, like, nothing you've ever heard before, I think that juxtaposition works fantastically. Which is why I think Scarlet and Violet soundtrack, while it doesn't have those memorable individual bits, I think by having a soundtrack that works so, like, flows so well, it juxtaposes so nicely for when you finally get to Area Zero, a place where it's completely unlike any other area in the game, and you just hear that fucking music just kick in. I think, again, as I said, if you think that Pokemon soundtrack in Scarlet and Violet isn't as good, I can agree. I think if you have to be, like, consciously listening to it to, like, really notice it, because it kind of works, it kind of flows seamlessly to, like, really transition each piece of music from overworld to, like, battle theme, so there really isn't anything that jumps out at you. I get it, but I think, again, it juxtaposes so nicely for when you enter Area Zero, and it's nothing like you've heard before. What happens when you get into a battle in Area Zero? The same thing that's happened throughout the entire game. It's a faster paced take on what you've been hearing. It's very nice, and I think what they did with the sound direction in this game is probably my favorite. I don't know if this is my favorite soundtrack in the entire series, but the sound direction they went with, I adore it. Listen, I can glaze SV all fucking day, okay? I can be here all fucking day, guys, I'm telling you.
It doesn't damage my ears like the graphics do to my eyes, because if I wanted to do that, I'd just listen to modern pop music. But another part of the
pop music band, am I right, guys? Pop music band, am I right? Fucking do this.
During the Olive Challenge, I noticed a very familiar sound effect. When I was in elementary school, I played Webkins all the time.
Don't... Demeech, you're not gonna slander SV for taking a sound effect from another game and putting it in this game, are you? Like, and especially a sound effect that's just like in one trial. You're not gonna do that, are you, Demeech? You're not gonna actually like paint that as an actual crit.
Seems to be from Go Googles. A game from 2005 made in Flash.
Wow, a game reused a sound effect from another video game that was probably in a public sound library that anybody could use. What a criticism. What a criticism to put in your retrospective 1 month after the game came out to me. What retrospective to put in your video where you insist that this game ruined an entire series? Who cares? You said the trials were bad anyway. So I only got sure, but Mario's been reusing the coin sound effect. Yeah, no. I love Scarlet and Violet. You could talk about the frame rate. You could talk about the intentional level order for an open world game. You could talk about the end game maybe being a bit too esoteric. You could talk about the DLC maybe not offering as much as it probably could have. There's so many things that you could fucking talk about with Scarlet and Violet. Jesus, and you're mentioning a sound effect. What is happening here?
Though I will say, is it just me, or do the Pokemon cries from Gen 6 and onward sound lower quality? Because I remember them sounding a lot better on the DS. But
no, they redigitized them to sound a bit more animalistic as opposed to very clearly just sounds on a machine. That's what they've done. I can give you an example actually. This is a Charizard's old cry. I think it very clearly sounds like just a sound in a video game. Whereas what they've done with the new cries post Gen 6, they made them sound a bit more animalistic. Like this sounds like more like a roar that like a Charizard would make. Does that make sense? Maybe not as good as it could sound, but they kept the DNA of what the original cry sounded like and made it sound like he's like roaring at you, you know? And that's what they did. And I think it's a much better sound direction to go for. And I think this is a classic case of Boomer's gonna boom. Again, that would be an interesting conversation for you to have, but you're not gonna have it because you just hate Scarlet and Violet, want to hate Pokemon, which is sad. Why Pokemon has gone... Thank you. Okay, here's the part we're here for. Why Pokemon has gone downhill.
There's no denying Pokemon has been pumping out games at a Deoxys Speedform's pace. Ever since the reveal of Gen 9, I've been incredibly skeptical. There is no way they could make an open world game within the span of so many other games. And yes, I'm aware Ilka made the Gen 4 remakes, but even as a fan, it's just exhausting. There's just too much to keep up with. But the question
no, I don't think it's too much to keep up with. What I wish, which is what they've done, is take a year off, which they have. As you guys know, they're not going to release a Pokemon game this year. They're taking a bit more time to refine the next game, which is only going to make me way more excited when Pokemon Legends R comes out. As for whether this is too much, no, I don't know. I just disagree.
The Pokemon Company is a branch consisting of 3 companies: Nintendo, Game Freak, and Creatures Inc. What's likely the case is mismanagement at Game Freak. They've been operating on a cycle of a new generation every 3 years ever since Black and White, and it's proven to be unsustainable. I often see the defense,
It's always been like this.
and it's not just limited to Pokemon. I see it all the time for other games.
Mario Strikers games weren't known for having a lot of content, so it's okay for Mario Strikers Battle League to be as paltry as it is.
It's a shame that there's virtually no content in Mario Strikers Battle League because it's a really fun game. Imagine if it was better if you had a group of friends to play with. Really tired of Nintendo releasing half-finished games and giving us free updates later. True. What does this person say? Mario Strikers wasn't known for having a lot of content in the past games like Tennis or Golf. However, roster aside, Battle League's content is more or less the same as the original. Yeah, this is just one of those tweets I would just humbly disagree with. I think Mario Strikers Charge had Road to the Striker Cup. It had a bunch of some challenge modes. It only had 10 challenges to be fair, so not a lot. But it had a bit more to the meat on the bone than Battle League did. This is simply a tweet where this person is just... I would just disagree with you. Like, of all the tweets to show, again, you can show the most glaziest, like, Brad Tendo tweet here. This is what you could show, but instead you show a guy just going, no, I think it's more of the original, in which I would just say, no, I think there was more in Strikers Charged. And this is the guy he name drops as well? It's a fake name, I think. Oh, is it? Oh, it's a fake. Okay, he's like, oh, so I'm guessing he censors it, but like adds a fake at and like uses this picture. Is that what he's going at? In which case, leave Diego alone. I don't know what Diego did to you.
Just because something has been a certain way does not mean it should stay that way. And just because a prior game had an issue, that doesn't make it okay to repeat. If anything...
Yes, you're arguing with shadows.
That even worse. Pokemon made the jump to consoles, and they might have been able to pull off the 3-year cycle with the handheld games, but it isn't enough time for consoles. I understand that Pokemon is a very lucrative and popular franchise, but even if it has to be this way, here's what I don't get. We know that Pokemon Legends Arceus released back in January, and it was mostly well received, but the game definitely needed a bit more polish. Why couldn't Legends Arceus be the Christmas 2022 title, and then Gen 9 could be the following Christmas season? It would not only benefit the games with more development time, but the fans and developers as well. There needs to be a change, because the only ones benefiting from this are greedy higher-ups. It's also
Preaching to the choir. That's basically what we've been saying for ages. I think even, I think Castform earlier, if I was to scroll up, basically says this. This has been like most of the Pokemon community agrees with this. You're preaching to the choir. It's either you're boxing shadows or preaching to the choir. Which one is it, Demeech?
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet managed to sell 10 million, and I repeat, 10 million copies within just 3 days.
And I was one of them. I bought this shit day one, motherfucker. Stay mad. Stay mad.
Even though their short-term success, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet will actively damage the reputation of the series.
Ooh, okay, interesting. Come on, let's go. Let's go.
Sword and Shield and Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl were generally seen as little more than lazy cash grabs, but even though Scarlet and Violet clearly have more ambition, that doesn't change the fact the game's launched in a buggy and unfinished state. Many will lose trust in the series and will potentially
No, I'll let him finish his point. I'm going to say no initially, but I'm going to let him finish his point.
Succeeding games. Oh, you play Pokemon? You mean the series that doesn't even have games that work properly? This also applies to something like Nintendo.
I don't base my enjoyment of a video game on what other people online say about the game. Weird. I know. Weird. But if somebody told me, oh, you like Pokemon Scarlet, even those buggy, unfinished games, I think you'd have to, I think the police would, be approaching me because they'd be wondering why I'm talking to a 10-year-old. That's what would happen if I was arguing with someone who said this. I don't think I ever bumped into someone that age who would unironically say that in a conversation. And I think if you did, you should quickly realize you're amongst children and eject from the conversation accordingly. I don't think that Scarlet and Violet being relatively buggy on launch is going to be the silver bullet that condemns the series. I think this is a problem that is endemic to the entire video game industry right now, in that it seems like QA testing has gone out the window because they've realized that they can just simply release a game. The people who buy it day one will simply put up with all the problems and then they can patch it later. This is a problem that's endemic to most of the video game industry. This is something that you'd probably know if you played more than just Nintendo baby games. But yeah, this is a problem that's with the entire industry, and we should all be complaining about this more, if I'm being honest. But we just don't, I guess people just don't care. That should be your wider point, but you're not going to make that because I don't think you're that smart. I think people can influence my perspective with theirs, but one, the person he's referring to is mostly 12 and 2. It wouldn't. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Obviously other people's opinions can influence your thoughts. Yeah, absolutely. That's what naturally your friends or the friend groups you hang out with. That's naturally what happens. But again, if somebody's saying, if someone's making that argument, oh, you play those buggy messes, I'm like, what are you, 12, my nigga? I'm not talking to you anymore. I'm ejecting from this conversation, brother.
The performance issues and presentation are the most glaring, heavily discussed issues, but there is a major oversight that isn't discussed nearly enough that managed to go against everything the game was going for.
Are you listening? I'm sitting up.
It's not actually open world. You can technically visit.
It's a intended level order. Oh, is that going to be his hot take? In which case, I agree with him, but boring. Again, you're not wrong. I agree with him. Just to clarify, it's just fair enough. Wouldn't it make sense to have a recommended order for newcomers? I suppose, but the fact that it doesn't scale, there's a ROM hack of Pokemon Crystal called Pokemon Crystal Clear. In that game, the gimmick of that ROM hack is that you can literally challenge any of the 16 gyms across Pokemon Crystal in any order. And each of the gyms have certain teams adjusted to the levels, how much badges you have. You can take on what is essentially the 16th gym first, and he'll have a tougher team because he's the 16th gym leader, but you can do that. His levels will scale. In this game, it does not, which is unfortunate. It's one of the saddest bits about this game, and I wish they fixed it, and I agree with him. It's just like I said, does he need to signify every single time he's angry? His audience are predominantly people who are deaf, so they need the visual. That's what it is. Final verdict. We're already at the end. Interesting.
Visually, the game looks awful. The new Pokemon are incredibly hit or miss, and the game can't even run properly. And the game couldn't even deliver on the promise of being open world. Simply put, this game is an absolute disaster, and it's seemingly the worst game I've ever covered, based on the amount of flaws. So when it comes to the final verdict,
the worst game you've ever covered. I want to see. I just want to see. I'm just curious. Battle League. Switch Sports? Wait, did he cover Switch Sports before this or after this? I can't with these thumbnails.
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are the very definition of unfinished games. They're buggy and lack any sort of polish, and clearly they were rushed out. I've seen discussion claiming Pokemon Scarlet and Violet are actual unfinished Nintendo games, essentially saying that the things like the Mario Sports games or Switch Sports aren't unfinished. But just because Scarlet and Violet are unfinished in the more traditional sense, that doesn't mean the sports games suddenly get a pass. Pokemon in the Switch sports games are—
Who are you arguing with?
But which is worse? A game that is functional but has zero content, or a buggy game that has some content and some good mechanics? If you're wondering if I found Scarlet and Violet to be worse than Mario Strikers Battle League and Nintendo Switch Sports, no, not a chance. Because as messy as it is, there's still a game.
So this isn't the worst game you've covered then? You lied to me, Demeech. Crazy.
Caught you, Pokemon red-handed.
He's doing the law thing, isn't he? Okay, now. Okay.
Anyways, you just admitted that you had fun with Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Glad you saw the light and realized how incredible.
Oh, it's the straw man. It's the straw man character. The character in your lore that is the straw man of your opinion, so you can argue with yourself. You can't just like a normal person go, yeah, initially when I first played this game, I actually had a lot of fun with it. But I think in retrospect, having thought about it for the next, you couldn't just do that. Instead, you have to have a whole fucking crazy.
That I've said?
Yes, I heard all of it. I even recorded it with my BlackBerry after playing some Atomic Dove. But you admitted it's fun, meaning it's indeed a phenomenal game.
No one has ever said this. You know the worst part about the strawman character is? Do you know the worst part about the strawman character is when people do this? It's never a realistic strawman. That's what I hate about it. It's always just like it's not even like, because obviously I know the purpose of the character is to exaggerate the opinion you want to fight back against, but it's never here's the opinion, here's the exaggeration. It's here's the opinion. You see what I mean? It's just boring every time. This parrot is obviously made by you to have zero nuance on any take that you want it to have. It's not just your take. It's not just the other take, but a little exaggerated for the fun of it, because it can be fun. Like I think Albert Boris's one is a bit more charming.
Alpine Pass.
In general, when it comes to my videos, I prefer it if you just talk like a normal fucking person. But when Albert Boris does it, it's at least a little bit more charming, and she's not like completely. It's usually a bit made for a bit quirky bits, like 3 years, rock mountain, and I'm just like, okay. This person is just like, fuck my life, bro. Who are you arguing with, man? Why Pokemon in open world should be level scaled? Gyms for sure, but in open world would be more interesting if you can't catch some Pokemon at the start of the game and return later to catch it. See, here's the thing, Racic. That would actually make for a very interesting conversation, one that Demeech is not going to have. Is having an intended level order actually better for the game? Is having certain areas that you cannot access and make it feel better when you actually can? Again, you see, Racic, you're doing the crazy thing of starting an interesting conversation, something that for the entirety of the video, Demeech has failed to do. That's actually quite an interesting conversation. Would it be better to have it entirely level scaled so you can go anywhere and see any Pokemon you want at any time, considering your level? Or is it better to gate some areas off so that there's like a bit of intrigue to going to them later? Very fun conversation. It's all subjective. It's all like down to our personal preferences. But Demeech is not. He's just got the straw bird, guys. We've got the straw man parrot. Laugh at the funny voice, guys.
Objectively speaking,
guys, laugh at the guys. Why are you not laughing? He said he's doing the squeaky voice. Guys, he couldn't even. It's not even like Virtual Oris, where at least Albert Boris hired someone else to do a voice. He just squeaked up his. Guys, it's supposed to be funny. Why are you not, guys? 8.5 out of 10. Oh, this is actually another YouTube. Okay, I'll take that bit back. It's still cringe though.
Out of 10. And with your entitled bantering, you're not letting us Pokemon fans be happy and ruining our enjoyment.
No one has ever said this.
Never like anything that comes out nowadays. So why don't you just save us the trouble and go back to playing your Lord and Savior, the Nintendo GameCube?
Boomer. Go back and play your childhood, you fucking boomer. Yes, I'm with you. I actually like the bird now. I'm actually with the bird on this one. Fuck you, man. Let us have the new games, and we're gonna enjoy the new. I'm over here having fun, Demeech. I'm over here having fun, brother. I'm playing 3D. I'm enjoying 3D World. I've been playing the other games. I've been playing a lot of games. I've been playing Ring Fit Adventure. I've been having fun with that, brother. I've been having fun. The modern gaming is better than it's ever been. You can stay with your GameCube era, boomer. You can stay there. All right. Goodbye. We have Fortnite. We have Zero Builds Fortnite. All right, that trumps any game on the game. Okay, maybe that's a bit too exaggerated, but Zero Builds Fortnite is still way more fun than most of your childhood. I guarantee that.
Some freaking
I don't even like Fortnite that much.
First of all, just because a game is fun, that doesn't mean it's good. And the level of fun can vary between games.
Yeah, but you're not wrong. Yeah, just because a game is fun doesn't mean it's good. But If someone's having fun, why do you... Who cares, bro?
Are you gonna have more fun throwing? Why should I play Pokemon Scarlet and Violet when games like Xenoblade Chronicles 3 and even Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope are even more fun to play and manage to have excellent gameplay and presentations?
It's almost as if the series is... It's almost as if you've realized what this series is not for you anymore, and you can move on. That's crazy, brother. That is crazy. Do you know what the worst part is? If Pokemon Legends Arceus was not good, that would have been me. That would have been the death blow in this. But this series is not for me anymore. I've outgrown it. I'm going to play other video games. I've got a PlayStation 4. I've got a Nintendo 3DS. I've got a Nintendo Switch. I'm just going to play other games now. I'm going to say the word objective level. As an RPG, as a JRPG, Pokemon is way behind. Even though like you have like. Story-wise, while I think the story of SV was good, does it compare to Persona 5? Fucking no. Even though the side content in Scarlet and Violet was fun and the characters were good, does it compare to the highs of Persona 5? No. But when I'm playing a Pokemon game, I'm going into it thinking, okay, can Game Freak have made this the best it could have been, given its time frame? Sure. Could it have been better if it was given a year? Yes. But sadly, that's not the reality we live in, so I'm going to meet the games for what they are, which is a fun creature-collecting game that has a lot of nostalgia for me. And guess what? Scarlet and Violet delivered. But instead of... You're trying to put, like, a square peg in a round hole. The square peg is Pokemon and the brain is the round hole. You have a round peg, which is Xenoblade 3, which is an RPG you enjoy. Go play that. And that's not and just to clarify, I'm not making the argument of don't like it, don't play it, but it's very clear what you've even acknowledged this. It's very clear what Pokemon is now. It's a game that is made on a bit of a time crunch, more of a time crunch than it should be, in order to maximize profits. Every game is very clearly designed to be somebody's first Pokemon game aimed at children. So if all of these aspects really annoy you, just don't play the game. It's obviously not meant for you. Guess what? Call of Duty is a perfect example for me. I played Call of Duty 4 back in 2007, and I bought the game every single year up until Call of Duty Black Ops 3. That was the last Call of Duty game I bought on day one. And do you know why I stopped buying it? Because it's the same game every year, and I just realized these kind of games aren't for me anymore. And that was it. It's important to ask if the franchise has changed or you have changed. Neither is inherently bad, but to argue this shallowly about it is weak. That was a very, very pungent way of putting it, bro, Safina. A very, very good way of putting it. Oh, wait, I found an alternative to your childhood franchise that scratched the itch and propped them up by speaking good things about them. Exactly. Now, I am aware from a content creator's perspective, negativity sells, but even if I was to do this full time, I could never imagine myself being to a point where I only ever talk shit about video games. I think I would, while that might get me the money I want, I would hate myself. I would want to highlight games that I think are notoriously bad, but I'd also want to highlight the good. And that's not because of this grander theme of, I want to be a positive influence. I don't give a shit. I just want to talk about good video games. I like good video games, and I want to highlight them where I can. On a personal level, I don't give a shit about the influence I put out in the world. I hope it's good, obviously, but that's not I'm not thinking about it in that sense. I just like the medium of video games so much. I want to highlight the ones that I really like, as well as highlighting the ones that I hate too, of course. But it seems like, at least from the way the chat's been talking about Demeech, while I'm not too familiar with him personally, it seems like this is just his shtick, and he just shits on games, and it's just like, I get it sells, and I get you might find some satisfaction, but ultimately, I don't know. I don't really find it too fulfilling. Demeech is a guilty pleasure of mine, but sometimes opinions can be guilty pleasure. You just strap in and go, like, when you're finding that one video to watch dinner to, you're like, you see like Demeech in your sub box, and you're just like, oh, am I ready for this mental psychic damage? Oh, shit, man.
You don't want to make Masuda angry. After all, if we buy
no one says this.
Game, we may get remakes we've been clamoring for.
No one
like
says
Pokemon
this.
Ultra Sword and Ultra Shield.
No one says this.
Don't you want that, Demeech? Don't you want games that I want?
No one says
Why
this.
Why would you want to play anything else when you can surround yourself with the comfort Pokemon provides?
No one says this.
You're missing the point. It's Pokemon, not that.
Is this the rest of the video? Please kill me.
Branding. You're sounding like that freak Jeff Keighley.
But by no means.
Sorry, Demeech, I didn't mean to pause you. I'm tired of leaning, so instead I'm going to move myself to the left-hand side, so the bird will be in full uninterrupted view.
Defend a billion-dollar corporation.
I'm gonna be honest, Demeech. I'm just looking at the various animations that this bird has. That's all I'm doing. It's literally my Subway Surfers.
You cuckoo bird.
But it's a step in the right direction, just like how Super Mario Party
nice
was.
teeth.
4 boards is better than none.
Why does a billion-dollar franchise
Probably want a cracker?
with
Mister, can you introduce a cat and argue with yourself? I'd rather fucking delete my channel. What was he?
Because what we're
Nice
left with
is he a
is a game that
calculator
has
on
some
him?
good concepts.
Who the fuck is this character? What is happening? Diego?
The sports games aren't unfinished, they're just incomplete. I don't see them being broken buggy misses, but this one definitely is.
I'm not even gonna debate you here. Do you think you could not?
Who are you? You're debating yourself. Oh man, I need to know, guys. Is anyone who's like older than 15 enjoyed like the strawman character? Like, I need to know. Like, if this is for YouTube Kids, then fair. But like, maybe I'm just overly hating it. I don't know. I'm just like, I don't know.
Alright, I wrote a letter to Nintendo about how unsatisfactory the game is. Did you do the same?
Nearly 6,000 words, indented, handwritten in Splatoon ink. I'm ready.
You're looking for the Nintendo console? Well, why didn't you say so? Anyway, that seems to be in order.
Kill me, guys. Celebrating 10 years of Demeech, huh? Yeah? Yeah? And this is the best you came up with, brother.
After the
Crazy.
release of Pokemon. But the worst part about it is that while it claims to be open world,
That comment just took me out. Thank you, JD. It's just what it feels like to watch Skibbity. I think that's what it is.
and I have no
You
idea
know what? I was gonna skip ahead when there's 2 minutes left. Let's just tank the psychic damage.
what happened to the Nintendo that was about quality first before anything else. This explains everything.
Nearly one.
Howdy,
Oh my god. Skibbity me. Nearly 1 little message found out about going find and burn in Pyongyang.
howdy, Demeech.
Okay,
Smells like
I'm not gonna lie, Minister Chicken, I can see how you ironically like this. I can see it now. I still think this is shit. I still think this is like, on a personal level, I think this is shit. But I could see why you'd want to watch this ironically and be like, good lord, I just want to laugh at this. I'm currently editing a Mario Kart video. I need this bird now. I'm gonna, as soon as I'm done with the stream, I'm gonna take a break, probably play some Overwatch with my fiance, and then I'm gonna edit for like 2 more hours before I go to sleep. I need this bird. I want to put the bird in my video. I'm not even gonna like do the straw man voice. I just want the bird. I just want the bird, guys.
Black people
Just him like, just like his animations.
can just be happy when they're broken and
I totally want to debate it. See, no, here comes the difficult part, right? If I ironically debate the bird in my latest Mario Kart video, like a lot of the irony is going to be lost on people. Like every fiber of my being wants to do it, but the people are going to.
cannot go on. And I'm going to find the source and put an end to this once and for all.
Demeech Maximum Fury.
What the hell is this?
What's happening?
Prepare for Demeech's fury.
Okay.
It doesn't even seem to be effective. What is going on here? This bird is literally invincible.
Here, have some bombs.
Who is even? Did I blink and lose, guys? I don't even know who he's fighting. This is 2022's Kade. I can't breathe. I actually can't breathe. What time's to join the street? Frying Pan Sam, leave while you can. Leave while you can, brother. This is an unholy land.
Demeech, you're entitled to
It's the bird. We love the bird. Okay, we
face.
love the bird. We love the bird. It's Frying Pan Time. Okay, remember, we love the bird.
I'm sorry, man. Hey, Bird Brain. I enjoyed Pokemon Scarlet and Violet quite a bit, but that doesn't give you the right to go after those who did it. And this is coming from someone who made
Oh, so now he's using the bird to strawman his, to steelman. That's the opposite of a strawman. He's using the bird to steelman his opinion. I'm way too lost. Don't worry, I've been lost for the last fucking, hour and a half. We've been watching this.
mistake of doing so. It's okay to disagree. And criticism just means you care.
Pokemon Scarlet and Violet.
What is it? It just fades out? It just fades out? That's it? No, like, transition, like, oh, thanks, bird. I appreciate that. Now let me finish the review. Not even that. You just fade back to the... Brother. Guys, we're watching a Demeech video every week now. We're watching... There's gonna be a Demeech section. There's gonna be a Demeech section of every fucking video.
Of unmined gems find the
Demeech
good. It's
December.
primarily the open world structure and the story that hold the game together. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet definitely lean more towards the ranking of trash, and even though it has some good aspects, I cannot in good faith recommend it. It did, however...
Remember, just to clarify, you said this game is, and let me move my camera back to my normal starting position once I find it on my OBS. Good lord, you hiding from me. How Pokemon's kind of ruined the franchise. It's like, it's funny. Again, I get. Listen, I get the title of a little clickbait. I get it. You can bait people a little. You double dipped. Scarlet ruined Pokemon. And at the very end, what do you say?
If you want a more straightforward answer, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet definitely lean more towards the ranking of trash, and even though it has some good aspects, I cannot in good faith recommend it. It did, however...
Well, that's the worst game ever made? A game that has some good aspects, but you can't in good faith recommend? I think these games are fantastic, and while I can definitely understand why some people don't enjoy them, to say a retrospective of the worst game and it's ruined Pokemon is an insane take, and the fact that in the video at the very end you back down from such a strong stance indicates that throughout this entire video I have been baited. You have not compellingly convinced me. You've had some takes that make sense, like there being an intended order despite being open world. I agree with that. The frame rate issues are annoying. In my subjective experience, I didn't have a lot of problems with it, and a lot of people didn't seem to have a lot of problems with it. So I understand on that front. I think you said the game looks ugly. While I think the frame rates issues make the game look ugly, I think the Paldea as a region looks decently nice. That's not the worst thing ever made. And your comparisons to other RPGs fly in the face of what Pokemon is trying to be, both in the sense of what Pokemon is on a capitalistic front and what it is on a literal front, which is a game that generally is aimed at children and where every game is assumed to be someone's first game. So I think on a lot of levels, I think you failed to sell the premise of your video. Even if I disagreed with your point, you haven't sold me on the premise of the video in that you've convinced me that you think these are the worst things ever made. The fact that at the very end you back away from that position tells me that. And I'm very disappointed in you, Demeech. I'm very disappointed. The bird was funny, though. I do like the bird.
I hope that Game Freak and Nintendo learn from this fiasco to give Pokemon the time in the oven it needs so it can be the very best like no one ever was.
True. I mean, at least his ending statement is true. We've been saying that forever. So, Demeech, my man, I'm not gonna lie. I would say get rid of all the lore, but I imagine it's such an integral part of who you are on the channel now. There's no point. I think you're just too far gone. So, do you know what? Keep the lore going. Keep the lore going, brother. At least we had fun. We had fun, gamers, right? What a fucking fun segment. So, do I start making plans for Demeech December? I mean, I'm not gonna start making plans and I can pencil you all down, alright? I need a nice, solid guest list if I'm gonna do it. Do let me know in the comments below if you're interested. And while you're doing that, a big thank you to all the members. The tier 1s you can see in the description, and the tier 2 Royal Guard and their wizards you can see on the screen now. A big thank you as always. Your funding goes a decently long way, but you don't have to go a long way to enjoy more of me. I have a second channel for other videos as well, other reactions. Check it out. And then this all then.